The reason why tracking matters is because we want to avoid making decisions based off of emotion of how people feel like things are going.
Right.
Because oftentimes the way that people feel is a little different than what really is happening. So tracking is amazing. The data that we collect give us the facts. And that's what we're interested in.
Damon, we're gonna hit Damon up first. He's a podiatrist in Spokane, Washington. He says, how do we keep track so that we can evaluate the effectiveness of a campaign? Now, I'm assuming the campaign that they're talking about is some sort of a marketing or advertising campaign. But how does a podiatrist or somebody in the medical industry, if they're doing some sort of advertising or promotion online, how do they track whether or not it's working, not working, how to make it better? Thoughts?
Well, that's a good question. First of all, hi, Damon. It's good to hear from you. But you know, I actually get this question a lot.
Okay.
And I've got a couple of general things that I want to say about it. In digital marketing in particular, you know, we have a specialty, well, specialty or not, we have a lot of medical offices that work with us. And so we seem to do really well for them and we have a reputation for that. But one of the things we talk about all the time is tracking. And so I've written down a couple of notes because I wanted to make sure that I hit a couple things and didn't forget some of the thoughts that I had. But tracking in digital marketing is paramount.
Yep.
One of the things that I love about what we do is everything's trackable. So you can definitively give the proper attribution to where was money spent and where was it returned. Just so that you know, but digital marketing by and large is, in the simplest ways, a large data collection game. There's different ways that we collect data, and there's different ways that some of the platforms we use collect data. Everybody knows, and it's not a secret, it's, you know, kind of not cool for privacy matters, but Google, Facebook, TikTok, and whatever entities are behind those collect all kinds of information about you. As marketers, it's phenomenal because we have access to be able to do really specific types of targeting, whether that's demographic targeting, persona targeting, it could be geographic, psychographic. There's lots of different ways that we can set up audiences, but you can't, the reason why tracking matters is because we want to avoid making decisions based off of emotion of how people feel like things are going.
Right.
Because oftentimes the way that people feel is a little different than what really is happening. So tracking is amazing. The data that we collect give us the facts. And that's what we're interested in. So
I really appreciate that because oftentimes as business owners or as marketers, sometimes we fall into the temptation of thinking that we know best, that our experience or our gut feel knows best, and we make decisions based on that. But to your point, when people come to websites or when customers interact, that data is tracked, and that's the stuff that we want to make sure to use to inform decisions, not our hunches or our gut feels or our experience. So that's great insight.
Yep. When and look, I like to think that I know a few things.
Right.
I am often wrong, and the data is what proves me wrong based off of my feelings.
Exactly.
But there are some very specific things to do and to use. Paramount for just about any type of marketing campaign we use. We discuss this at length often, not only with our clients but internally. But one of the very best platforms out there for any kind of tracking on any kind of digital marketing is Google Analytics. So Google Analytics is a must. Now, there are a couple of steps in analytics. So implementing is really a basic piece. Setting it up correctly is another piece. And that's something we do all the time, especially when we take over projects from other digital marketing agencies, is find that they've just set it up, but they haven't set the settings in Google Analytics to get the proper attribution. So Google Analytics, and specifically in analytics, I'll just mention that you want to set up conversion goals.
Okay.
So if somebody wants to call your office, Damon, there's a way to set it up so we can track those phone calls in Google Analytics. Form fills. There's lots of different things we can set up for conversion goals. So those are just a couple things. The other thing that Google Analytics does is helps us define and find out who our audience is. And it's called audience definitions. And so if anybody has any questions about how to set those up, what to set up, where to set it up, call me. I'll just tell you. I'll just tell you guys if you guys want to know.
That's awesome.
So Google Search Console is another amazing communication portal. You not only learn about how your website performs, where people come from, how many visits and impressions and what you're showing up for and where people are located when they see you, et cetera, et cetera. But you can connect Search Console and Google Analytics, and I find that is often missed.
Oh, okay.
So setting up analytics is paramount, Search Console, and then connecting the two. That matters. Now there are things you can connect other than just those two.
Right.
But for all intents and purposes for this answer, that's what I'll mention. Another one that's underutilized by a lot of people is UTM Codes. So UTM Codes is a query string that you stick on the end of a URL, and it helps analytics identify really specific about how people found you, where they found you, what source they came in from, et cetera, and it makes sorting that data really easy. So I would highly recommend UTM Codes on everything you do, link building, social media posts, Facebook ads, Google ads, anything like that. Tracking pixels, lots of companies offer tracking pixels. Implement that. Facebook is really famous for a tracking pixel. Do it. Need to have tracking pixels. That helps us to define like how effective was social media to completing a specific objective. Now, Google Tag Manager is kind of a surface piece. Utilize, it's not critical, but it's really helpful and it's very convenient and it offers so much flexibility in how you do tracking. I would recommend you use Tag Manager, and then you can set up all of your other conversion triggers within Google Tag Manager. And I'm sure we can talk about what that is at another time. It's a good thing. And then I would also say the very last thing that's probably most important, maybe call it the hack at the end. Don't forget your calls to action. Anytime you ever put out a piece of information, whether it's on social media, in a Google My Business post, in a just on your website, instruct your audience. Tell them you want to do something. And then that will trigger activity in Google Analytics based on how you have things set up. So then that should be able to help you track the effectiveness of any digital marketing campaign that you're running.
I love that last piece because it's as business owners and marketers, sometimes we feel like if we just get good information out there about who we are, what we do, who we do it for, how it works, et cetera, that's enough, that our potential customers and consumers, that they'll see that and they'll just want to take action. But it's hard to, Damon, as you were just mentioning, or as you asked, it's hard to track the effectiveness of a campaign if we don't have a way to measure some sort of action that they are taking. If we forget to ask them to call, to click, to download, to visit, to subscribe, to fill out a form,
set up an appointment.
If we don't ask them to do something, that sort of action can't be tracked. So other thing that just came to my mind is it's okay if a campaign isn't working. Sometimes we freak out if something isn't working, but the next step when we look at the data and we notice that a campaign really isn't, not a lot of people are clicking or calling or filling something out, it's time to make some tweaks and some changes in what's being invited, or maybe an ad or a picture, an image, or the words, or change things up a little bit so that it can improve. So anyway, so that's great. Anything else on that?
Nope. I hope that helps, Damon.
All right. Well, you're the man. Thanks for asking, Damon.